In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. Ordinary people, Israeli and Palestinian.
Starmer's Palestine gamble, political masterstroke or diplomatic disaster. Right. Before we dive into what might be the most consequential foreign policy decision of Starmer's premiership, smash that subscribe button because you're about to witness British politics at its most cutthroat. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Picture this. Keir Starmer, the man who spent months walking the diplomatic tightrope with all the grace of a particularly cautious accountant, has just made a move that sent shockwaves through Westminster, Washington, and quite frankly, every major capital that matters. The UK has formally recognized Palestine as a sovereign state, and the political establishment is absolutely losing its collective mind. Now, you might think this is just another bit of diplomatic theatre, the sort of symbolic gesture politicians love to parade about whilst changing precisely nothing on the ground. But here's where it gets interesting, because this decision didn't emerge from some grand strategic vision or carefully orchestrated foreign policy review. Oh no, this was pure political survival, and the knives were already being sharpened long before Starmer made his announcement. Let's rewind to October 7th, 2023, shall we? The Hamas attacks on Israel sent the entire British political spectrum into collective horror, and rightly so. But here's the thing about British politics. It's never quite that simple. Within weeks, as Israel's retaliation began mounting civilian casualties in Gaza, something rather uncomfortable started happening within Labour's ranks. The party that had just swept to power was beginning to eat itself alive from the inside. Picture the scene. More than 100 Labour MPs, led by Rotherham Sarah Champion, essentially staging a parliamentary mutiny by signing a cross-party letter demanding immediate Palestinian recognition. Not next year, not as part of some nebulous peace process, but right bloody now. The Guardian was reporting that cabinet ministers were privately cornering the Prime Minister, with Yvette Cooper and Angela Rayner leading the charge. And then came the killer blow from West Streeting, the Health Secretary, who told lawmakers with devastating clarity, "I want acknowledgement while there's still a state of Palestine left to recognize." Now, that's not just political pressure. That's the sound of a government's foreign policy credibility being held hostage by its own backbenchers. Starmer found himself caught between the proverbial rock and hard place, trying to maintain the special relationship with Washington whilst his own party was threatening open rebellion. The irony is delicious, isn't it? The man who spent years purging the Labour left suddenly found himself being dragged leftward by the very MPs he'd courted to secure his leadership. But here's where the electoral mathematics become absolutely brutal. Labour didn't just face internal pressure. They lost 4 seats of pro-Palestinian independents in the general election. 4 actual seats. Gone, because voters looked at Labour's position on Gaza and said, "Not good enough, mate." The Greens and left-wing independents were circling like vultures, ready to pick off more constituencies where Labour's stance was seen as morally bankrupt. So when Starmer finally announced Palestinian recognition, was this a principled stand for international justice? Or was this a Prime Minister desperately trying to save his own political skin? The answer, as with most things in British politics, is probably both, and that's what makes it so bloody fascinating. The Labour Party machinery went into overdrive celebrating this decision. Naturally, recognition of Palestinian statehood has been party policy for decades, so finally delivering on it felt like a long overdue homecoming. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find Labour MPs on the right of the party absolutely terrified about what this means for Britain's relationship with Trump's America. They're asking the uncomfortable questions. Will this symbolic gesture actually help a single Palestinian child in Gaza, or have we just torpedoed our most important strategic alliance for the sake of internal party management? And here's the kicker, the left isn't satisfied either. Jeremy Corbyn, that perennial thorn in Labour's side, immediately demanded the UK recognise what he calls genocide in Gaza and completely cease arms sales to Israel. The new Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, twisted the knife further by pointing out the glaring contradiction. Labour can't credibly support Palestinian statehood whilst also continuing to arm Israel. It's political chess at its most vicious, and Starmer's move, rather than ending the game, might have just opened up entirely new lines of attack. The government's defenders will point to their record since taking office, restoring funding to UNRWA, sanctioning extremist Israeli settlers, suspending some arms licenses, supporting the International Criminal Court. It sounds impressive until you realize that for many within Labour's own ranks, these measures are seen as pathetically inadequate half measures that do nothing to address the core issue of British complicity in what they view as war crimes. Now, Let's talk about what this means for Starmer's political survival, because that's really what this is about, isn't it? Downing Street insiders are hoping this recognition will buy them breathing room, particularly before the party conference in Liverpool. The wolves within the Labour Party were circling, and prominent figures like Streeting and Shabana Mahmood were genuinely at risk of losing their seats to pro-Gaza candidates if something dramatic didn't happen. But here's a delicious irony. Whilst this move might calm the domestic storm temporarily, it's potentially creating an even bigger headache internationally. Donald Trump has made clear his opposition to Palestinian recognition, and Starmer now finds himself in the extraordinary position of having potentially damaged relations with Britain's most important ally to appease his own backbenchers. The special relationship, that sacred cow of British foreign policy, might just have been sacrificed on the altar of Labour Party unity. The public polling tells an interesting story, though. YouGov found 44% of Britons support Palestinian recognition, with only 18% opposing it. Those pro-Palestine marches we've seen across Britain clearly reflect genuine public sentiment, not just organized political activism. In the social media age, where videos of Gaza's devastation circulate instantly, public opinion has shifted dramatically. The government's decision to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization only added fuel to the fire, with critics arguing it criminalized legitimate protest. So where does this leave us? Starmer's gamble might have bought him temporary peace within his own party, but is now navigating an even more complex international landscape. He has managed to satisfy neither the left, who want complete arms embargoes and genocide recognition, nor the right, who fears damage crucial strategic relationships for minimal gain. It's a masterclass in political triangulation gone wrong. Or perhaps, depending on your perspective, exactly right. The real test isn't whether this recognition helps Palestinians on the ground, though one hopes it might contribute to eventual peace. The real test is whether Starmer has demonstrated the kind of decisive leadership that can hold together a fractious party whilst maintaining Britain's international credibility. Early signs suggest it's created as many problems as it's solved, but in the brutal world of Westminster politics, sometimes buying time is victory enough. What's absolutely certain is that this decision will define how we view Starmer's premiership. Either he's shown he can make tough calls when the pressure mounts, or he's revealed himself as a leader who prioritizes party management over strategic thinking. Time will tell which narrative wins out, but one thing's for sure, British politics just got a whole lot more interesting. Make sure you're subscribed to UK Connors because the story is far from over, and when the next chapter unfolds, you'll want to be right here with us, dissecting every twist and turn of this political drama that's reshaping Britain's place in the world.